where the lavender grows. In the quiet countryside of Provence, France, where fields of lavender stretched like oceans of purple under the summer sun, lived a young woman named Elise. She was the daughter of a widowed lavender farmer, known for her gentle spirit and the songs she sang while tending to the blooms. Her voice, soft and haunting, would drift across the fields like wine through the petals, and people often said that even the flowers turned toward her when she sang. One day, a stranger arrived in the village. His name was Lucien, a travel photographer from Paris, weary of city life and looking for peace. He was drawn to the village by a photograph he had once seen, lavender fields bathed in golden light, and something deep within him said he needed to find that place. Lucien met Elise when he stumbled into her father's field, camera in hand, trying to capture the perfect sunrise. She laughed when she found him nearly tripping over a basket of fresh lavender, his lens fogged with morning mist. From that moment, something quiet but certain sparked between them. Over the next few weeks, Lucien visited the farm every day. At first, he claimed he was chasing the perfect light. But soon, he found himself more interested in the stories Elise told him, of her childhood, of her mother's lullabies, of the scent of lavender after the rain. He took pictures of everything, the curve of her smile, the soft blur of her silhouette among the flowers, the way her hands gently harvested each stem. Elise, in turn, found herself waiting for him. She noticed the way he looked at the world, how he found beauty in things she had long stopped seeing. His presence brought color to her routine, light to the quiet corners of her heart. But love, like lavender, must weather seasons. As summer faded into autumn, Lucien received an offer from a prestigious magazine in New York. It was his dream: global exhibitions, recognition, adventure. He was torn. Elise, who loved him deeply, didn't ask him to stay. Instead, she gifted him a pressed lavender bloom and whispered, "Follow your dreams. I'll be here, where the lavender grows." He left with a promise to return, but seasons turned, letters slowed, and silence bloomed in their place. Years passed. Elise took over the farm after her father's passing. Though her heart still carried the memory of Lucien, she never stopped tending the fields. And every summer, she'd sing, hoping, perhaps, that the wind would carry her voice to wherever he was. Then one summer morning, just as the sun painted the fields gold, Elise saw a man standing at the edge of the lavender. He looked older, his face lined with time, but his eyes were the same. In his hands, he held a camera, and in his pocket, the faded lavender bloom she had once given him. "I found everything I ever wanted," Lucien said, voice trembling, "but none of it meant anything without you." Tears welled in Elise's eyes, but her smile was steady. "You came back," she whispered. "I never truly left," he replied. And so, among the lavender fields where their story began, they found each other again. Not as strangers or dreamers, but as soulmates who had learned that true love, like the lavender, returns with every season if you're patient enough to wait. Whispers of the Wind. In the quiet village of Alaris, where the wind danced through fields of lavender and the sky blushed at dawn, lived a girl named Leora. She was a painter, known for her sunsets and starry skies captured on canvas. Her home sat at the edge of the hills, overlooking the valley below, where the river sang and the world seemed to hold its breath in wonder. Leora believed in colors more than people, until she met Kellen, a traveler with a quiet smile and stories in his eyes. He arrived one summer evening, dusty from the road and carrying an old guitar slung across his back. He wasn't like the others who passed through town. He asked no questions, expected no answers, and yet, something about him made Leora's heart tilt sideways. They met at the village market, where she sold her paintings. Callan stopped in front of a canvas of a stormy sky and said, "It looks like it's holding back tears." Leora raised an eyebrow. Maybe it is. Why? He asked. Because it's waiting, she replied, without thinking. From that moment, something stirred. He returned the next day, and the day after that. They shared long walks through the meadows, laughter over coffee at the tiny cafe by the river, and long talks under the stars. He would play his guitar while she painted, and the silence between them was never empty, it was full of everything unspoken. One evening, as the summer began to fade, they sat on her rooftop, watching the sky melt into hues of orange and pink. Callan turned to her and said softly, "I've never stayed anywhere this long." "Why not?" she asked. "Because I was always looking for something, or maybe someone." "And?" Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "I think I found both." Leora felt the wind shift, as if the world had taken a breath. She wanted to say 1,000 things but only managed, "Then stay." Callan stayed. Autumn arrived with golden leaves and whispered promises. Together, they turned her cottage into a home filled with music and art, and mornings that began with quiet smiles and sleepy kisses. He told her stories of places he'd seen, and she painted them into worlds on canvas. Her colors grew brighter. His songs grew softer. But love, as the wind, is not always still. One winter morning, a letter arrived. Callan was offered a music fellowship abroad, a dream he once spoke of, almost forgotten. Leora saw the hesitation in his eyes, the war between love and purpose. She held the letter, then looked at him. "Go," she said. "I don't want to leave you." "You're not leaving me. You're finding yourself. And I'll still be here, painting our skies." They kissed beneath the snowflakes, promising to return to one another when the time was right. Months passed. Seasons turned. Letters were exchanged, filled with longing and love. Leora painted, always leaving one corner of her canvas empty, waiting. One spring morning, as the lavender began to bloom again, Leora stood on the hill where they first watched the sunset together. A familiar sound reached her ears, the soft strum of a guitar. She turned. Callan stood there, the same quiet smile on his lips, but with a depth in his eyes that time had carved gently. He walked to her, took her hand, and whispered, "I came home." And in that moment, with the wind whispering through the fields and the sky blooming in color, everything that had ever been lost was found again. Beneath the lantern sky. In a quiet riverside town in Japan, where cherry blossoms danced in the wind and paper lanterns floated like stars on the water, lived a girl named Aiko. She was gentle, quiet, and worked at her grandmother's tea house. Her days were filled with brewing tea, arranging flowers, and reading romance novels by the window when no customers came. One spring evening, as the town prepared for the annual Lantern Festival, a young man arrived. His name was Ren, a photographer from Tokyo searching for beauty that couldn't be captured by words alone. He stayed in a small guest house across from the tea house and visited every day, always ordering the same thing, matcha with sakura mochi. At first, their conversations were brief. Aiko was shy, and Ren was often lost in his thoughts or behind the lens of his camera. But slowly, as days passed and cherry blossoms bloomed in full glory, they began to talk. She told him stories about the town, the legend of the lanterns, and how they carried wishes to the heavens. He told her about the city, about chasing light through crowded streets and empty nights. One evening, as the festival neared, Ren invited Aiko to help him photograph the lantern ceremony. They wandered through the lantern-lit streets, the soft glow painting their faces in gold and pink. As they stood on the bridge watching the lanterns float down the river, Aiko whispered her wish. "I wish to meet someone who sees the world differently," she said softly. Ren looked at her and smiled. And I wished to find something real, something I wouldn't want to photograph, but keep in my heart. They stood in silence, their hands gently brushing, the space between them filled with unspoken feelings. Over the next few weeks, they grew closer. Ren captured not just the town, but Aiko. Her laughter, her quiet moments, the way she looked out at the water as if it whispered secrets only she could hear. But as all seasons change, Ren's time in the town was ending. On his last night, he walked with Aiko to the river. The sky was filled with lanterns again, just as it was the night they first shared their wishes. "I don't want to leave," Ren said. "But I have to." Aiko looked at him with tears in her eyes but smiled. "Then promise me you'll come back. Not as a photographer. Just as yourself." "I promise," he said, taking her hand. He left the next morning with only a single photo of her standing beneath the lantern sky, eyes closed, smiling like she held the whole world in her heart. A year passed. Seasons turned. Aiko waited. And then, one spring evening, as cherry blossoms fell once again and lanterns lit the sky, a familiar figure walked into the tea house, not with a camera, but with a suitcase and a heart full of love. Ren had returned. And this time, he stayed. Not to capture the moment, but to live it, every single day, with Aiko.